Spring 2008 on TSN is brought to you by the new Q horsepower from Quaker State. Unleash all your horses. And Michelin, a better way forward.
Ladies and gentlemen, the 2008 Dodge Grand Caravan and the Chrysler Town & Country.
More than a few eyebrows are raised at the 2007 Detroit Auto Show when Chrysler unveiled its brand new minivan. Now, this company invented this segment. They made a lot of money selling over 1 billion of these minivans. But look around, and the minivan segment is on a slide and sliding quickly. Ford isn't making them anymore, and General Motors will soon follow. And it only represents about 9% of the Canadian market. Well, this week we're just outside the city of Las Vegas, and I got a couple of questions I want answered. One, does Chrysler now regret bringing out the new minivan? We'll check to see how sales are doing. And two, they're unveiling the brand new Dodge Journey behind me here. They're calling it a crossover vehicle, yet it can accommodate up to 7 people, just like a minivan. So the question is it a minivan? Is the Journey a crossover? Or is it just a good old station wagon? Well, one thing I do know, the journey begins here.
We're calling this new vehicle the Dodge Journey, and we're calling it a crossover vehicle. But really, to call it a pure crossover vehicle kind of shortchanges it a little bit because it has many of the attributes of a small and compact vehicle, 35 miles to the gallon, a price point at under $20,000, but also it lends itself to some of the characteristics of a minivan. 3-row seating, capable of transporting 7 passengers, outstanding cargo capacity. So really, to call it a minivan or call it a smaller compact vehicle would be shortchanging its true capabilities.
It's built off of a shared platform that we had with the Chrysler Sebring and Dodge Avenger, and it really expands on that package to provide great versatility. Our customers often refer to some of our vehicles as their locker on wheels, and this vehicle provides a good way to help organize that locker. So you can carry up to 7 passengers, and you can stow all of their stuff too, which is great flexibility that Canadians need.
Well, the minivan has been doing extremely well for us, and it's nice to see that the new RT minivan that we launched in Detroit a year ago really hit its stride in December, selling right around 5,000 minivans in the Canadian market. More minivans than we've ever sold in another December in the history of Chrysler Canada. The minivan is really a bread and butter product for us. It has been for many years, and I'm very confident it will continue to be a bread and butter product for us, mainly because of its functionality and economy are really second to none in the marketplace.
Okay, so life is good with the minivan. It wasn't a mistake, but now we've got the Dodge Journey. Back to my question. It seats up to 7 people, so if it walks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, doesn't that make the Journey a minivan?
It is a minivan. It's absolutely a minivan, and it uses a lot of the last generation minivan technology. Again, they already own that. They got the parts for it. They can put it all together, but the idea these days is sell somebody a minivan based on its utility, but then convince them that it's not, so they can walk around and say, no, I don't have a minivan. So whatever, it works.
I think this would be an ideal candidate for a minivan, but they say that's not the market they're after. This is empty nesters, maybe people with 1 or 2 kids who don't really need to put too much stuff in the back and don't care about the backseat access as much as a minivan owner would.
The minivan is truly the 8,000-pound gorilla, as I touched on, the 3rd highest selling vehicle in Canada. The functionality and economy of the minivan is really undeniable, but I think the Journey can complement the minivan. We're no longer offering a short wheelbase minivan. I think customers that are looking for a smaller minivan can go towards the Journey.
I like this a lot better than I like the Caliber. The Caliber is kind of similar, different market I know, but I like this vehicle because it's normal. It's based on the Avenger Sebring platform, and I think that it's much more palatable and mainstream than what they've done so far. I have a real hard time with the Caliber. I just think it's a really unattractive automobile. I don't feel the same about this one. I think this is a nice, good effort, mainstream, not too exciting, but very, very drivable and very comfortable. Yeah, I quite liked it.
I think that Dodge in some ways has gotten very lucky. I think they're bringing in something in an economic climate that's really going to work. because it's relatively cheap. It's relatively cheap because they went to the parts bin and said, what do we already have? Stuck them all together. But it's a good presentation. It's a good presentation at a good price.
If they don't start selling a lot of vehicles soon, that the parent company, the Cerberus Group, are going to get funny. And I think there will be changes, and they may not necessarily be good changes. I think that what's going to happen is they're going to have to trim their model lineup. God, they have a lot of vehicles. I mean, they've got every niche covered, right? And I think maybe there's just maybe too many, maybe confusing to some people. Yeah, you got Patriot, Compass, now this one, Caliber. These are all, splitting the market up pretty fine, I think, yeah. I think this is going to be a home run for these guys. I mean, I don't normally say that about vehicles, but I have a good feeling about this one because I think it hits the market much more precisely than some of the other stuff they've done. And let's not forget price point. In Canada, it's going to be $19,995 to start. In the States, it's going to be $19,895, so there's almost parity price-wise. That'll be the key.
There are things that I might have wanted to see, but I can't argue with the price. At 20 grand or low 20s, what they have given you is pretty darn sweet.
I've always wished that I could have been MacGyver. More later on Kenzie's Corner.
There are big cars, there are small cars, and then there's this car. Now this is the latest version of the Smart Fortwo. That's this week on Test Drive. When the original Smart Fortwo debuted in Canada, many laughed at the concept. How could something so small survive on the highway? Not only did it survive, it did so whilst building quite a following. More than 10,000 people bought into the Smart's initial promise. The latest version picks up where the original left off by making the whole lot more people-friendly. First impressions suggest that you can pick this car up, stick it under your arm, take it into the house and keep it warm at night. However, when you get behind the wheel, things change appreciably. When you sit here, well, things seem actually rather large, and in fairness, there is a lot of space in here. My buddy who's 6'8" and 250 pounds, he managed to get in, and he was complimentary about the comfort. Would he buy a smart car? Not on your Nelly, but he did say how roomy it was. Elsewhere, well, you get what you expect for an $18,000 car. The materials are okay, the radio, not the best I've ever listened to. But the one thing that really does irk me, these two little dials up here, another $160. That's what they charge you to put them in. For goodness sake, build it into the price of the car. Perhaps the biggest change is found in the power. Out goes the diesel engine in favour of a 1-litre 3-cylinder engine that pushes 70 horsepower and 68 pound-feet of torque. Now this does not sound like much, but when push comes to shove and you nail the gas, the response is pretty good. It actually gets the Fortwo up to 100k in about 13 seconds. Not the stuff of drag racing lore, but more than enough for the city. Likewise, if you're brave enough, this engine will put 145 kilometres on the clock. Not for me, thank you. Right about now, we'd be showing you a pretty picture of the engine running. Well, in this smart car, we can't do that because the engine, it sits right there beneath the trunk floor. On the subject of the trunk, what you see is what you get. There are, however, a couple of benefits. First of all, a handy storage box right here, and when you take this privacy cover out and fold the seat forward, you can actually carry a longer item inside this car. It really does add to the versatility. The other thing, of course, this wash wiper, it is a must. The power is channeled to the road through a 5-speed clutchless manual. This is one of the car's lone weaknesses. The shifts take an agonizingly long time to accomplish. It can be likened to riding with a novice driver when it's the first time they've ever used a stick shift. Switch over into the manual mode and things do improve somewhat as the shifts, especially when the engine is pushed to redline, happen a little quicker. Simply flicking one of the steering wheel mounted paddles initiates the shifts. The system also includes a much needed hill start assistant. One of the better changes to this smart car is also one of the simplest. This front panel now lifts off. What does that give you? Access to the brake fluid and the cooling reservoir, but more importantly, you can now see the windshield washer bottle. That means you can fill it up without wasting half the contents. It's a simple move, but compared to the old car, it was a struggle. This thing, piece of cake. When it comes to handling the Smart surprises, no, it did not eat the pylon test for lunch, but it sure managed to hold its own. The base suspension and front anti-roll bar keep the amount of body roll well within acceptable limits. The steering also chips in with plenty of feel and feedback. Throw in the 155/60 R15 front tyres and 175/55 R15 rear tyres, and there is surprising grip. The really good news is the standard electronic stability and traction control systems, as well as the anti-lock brakes. They actually feature corner brake control. They also produce short 37-metre stops and a balanced pedal feel. My time with this Smart car taught me one thing. This car is what it is. I didn't care for the transmission. The lazy shifts drove me nuts, and it's something that needs to be addressed. On the other hand, I loved the way it zipped around town, and if there's only one tiny parking spot left in a large lot, guess who's got the parking spot? The person driving this car. The other thing I really did enjoy was waving at all of those gouging gas stations. With a test average of just under 6 litres per 100 kilometres, I did a lot of waving. Thank you very much.
Obviously, motorsports has always kind of led the way as far as what happens down the road with consumer cars. And I think it's a great step that ALMS is asking their teams to run on alternative fuels. It's definitely not what I would say making the series an eco-friendly series by any means, but it's definitely a step in the right direction. And I think that it's definitely setting a good example for the fans and also for the industry that, you know, that can be done. And if you can get the same kind of performance out of alternative fuels as you can on traditional fuels, I think that's really going to be the crucial point.
Closed captioning of Motoring 2008 is brought to you by the all-new 2009 Pontiac Vibe for the drive of your life.
You know, when Honda first unveiled the Honda Ridgeline pickup truck, they surprised a lot of people with what amounted to a trunk in the bed of the pickup to store valuables. Well, I think Dodge has outdone them. This new Journey has got more places to put more stuff than you can imagine. Starting on the passenger side, the passenger seat comes up, a compartment. In the glove compartment, once again, a place to put drinks. In the back, on the floor of both sides, is another storage compartment, insulated. You can throw lots of ice in there. And it doesn't stop there. The third and second row, not only do they go down flat, but they go down easily. So let's take a look at this. Lots of places to put your cold drinks, lots of room in the back to throw your junk. Maybe, now I'm just saying maybe, we might get our man in the Quaker State garage, Bill Gardiner, out of his pickup truck, and maybe he's willing to take a journey. How about it, Bill?
Oh, for sure, Brad. You know, I just can't wait to trade in the pickup truck and get rid of all that towing and hauling capability, ability to go through snow this deep, mud up to the axles. Yeah, I want to get one of those half-baked crossovers. You know what? Have a look at the front end of the Ram pickup here, Brad. See those tow hooks? Well, that's just part of what makes this vehicle, to me, the ultimate winter vehicle. And I've had this Ram pickup for about the last 6 weeks. 3 pretty memorable winter storms, most snow we've had since 1939. And you know, like so many things, what makes this Ram pickup truck a great ride for the winter is not any one thing. Yeah, it's a 4-wheel drive pickup truck, but it's also got great tires, big chunky deep tread, lots of tread depth, aggressive tires, big diameter but not too wide, so they're great for going through the snow. Also, locking differentials, 4-wheel drive, and tons of ground clearance underneath this vehicle, so you never get high centered on snow or ice. You're above the most snowfalls, so you're not getting that drag the vehicle wants to go through. At the back of the vehicle, we've got a great trailer hitch as well that's an attaching point for pulling vehicles or pulling whatever you want. And in this case, what I want to talk about is one of those winter storms. the private school right across from our home, a lot of the parents had pulled in to drop their kids off in the morning. The lot hadn't been plowed. I was there shoveling and snow blowing the pathways to the school, and a lot of these cars got stuck and couldn't get back out. And there was so much snow that no matter how many people were pushing and pulling, we couldn't get these cars out of the snow. So the Ram pickup truck to the rescue. I always have this vehicle recovery strap in the truck, whatever truck I'm driving. But a great feature that BMW cars have, and 2 of the cars that were stuck were BMWs. The owners didn't know about this feature. It's been around for a long time, and it's a great thing to talk about on the show here today. If you look at the bumper on a BMW car, front and rear, you'll see a window that's body colored or bumper colored on these vehicles. And if you pop it out with a little screwdriver that's in the toolkit, you'll also find in the toolkit with the jack and everything in the back of the car, this big cast eyelet that's threaded. And all you do is pop out that little window, thread this cast eyelet into the bumper of the vehicle, and there's a reinforced section where that threads in, and now you've got a great attaching point for hooking up whatever you want to use to tow that vehicle out of a ditch, out of the snow, whatever. Or if you're a tow truck operator trying to bring it up onto a flat deck tow truck, ideal thing. Now, on many other cars that are as low as the BMW, what you've got to do is get underneath to the frame to attach something. The problem is that when you run your cable, strap, chain, whatever you're using underneath the vehicle and back up to the frame, when you pull it tight, you end up doing damage to the chin spoiler or the front valance on the vehicle, and it's just not a safe way to handle that situation. So that's a great feature that BMW cars have. I wish all cars had it. And you know, when mechanics get sitting around swapping stories and swapping notes about their favorite features that they'd put together to build the ultimate vehicle, well, I just named you all the features for my ultimate truck. That feature would be on my ultimate truck, car, whatever, for getting it unstuck, towing it, whatever. So hats off to BMW for a great feature, and I hope more manufacturers put that feature in their line. Now, BMW is expanding their xDrive throughout their lineup, so the likelihood of those BMW cars getting stuck in the snow is going to be greatly reduced because they'll have all-wheel drive, and of course you'll buy 4 winter tires, right, so you won't get stuck. But in the meantime, need to know about that feature. Till next week, I'm Bill Gardiner for Motoring 2008.
Instead of coming to the Detroit Auto Show with a black cloud hanging over it, General Motors actually had something to brag about this year. Led by Bob Lutz, General Motors is now building vehicles that people want to buy.
What's surprising about General Motors is that they continue to surprise us. I mean, we sort of got used to the fact that they would come out with new products a few years ago that were very exciting. A few of us have been wondering if they could keep it up, and as we learned yet again today, yes, they can.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Cadillac CTS Coupe concept.
Nobody knew about the CTS Coupe, and it took us as a surprise. There's a 550 horsepower CTS-V with a supercharger that's going to kick BMW M5's butt. That's exciting stuff, and they continue to be able to push the envelope and continue to improve, and that is surprising. I mean, after 20 years of basically in the doldrums, they're continuing to move forward and not getting complacent about their newfound status as perhaps the best of the big three.
Make sure you check out Motoring's brand new website. Miss an episode or segment on TSN? Well, you can now watch it on the web. We also have a buyer's guide, car of the year poll, a photo gallery, the latest news, and much more. And it's all at motoringtv.com.
Now, we've gone on about cell phones and cars over the years on this show, about how talking on a cell phone is a distraction and should be avoided wherever possible. Now, a couple of additional Canadian provinces have joined Newfoundland and Labrador, plus several jurisdictions in the States and around the world, in banning the use of handheld cell phones because they're distractions. But as we've kept pointing out, research has shown that the issue isn't the loss of physical dexterity by holding onto a handset, it's the mental engagement. So you're basically driving impaired when you're talking on the phone. And what's more, you don't get sober the instant you hang up because this mental engagement takes up to 10 minutes to ramp itself down. Now, is this the most important thing the police should be doing, checking for people talking on cell phones? I mean, we are getting to be a bit of a nanny state here. In Ontario now, they recently banned smoking in cars if your kid's in the car. Now, that's probably something you shouldn't be doing anyway, but is this the police's job or is this your job as a parent? I'm not sure. But there is one thing about cell phones in cars that we've just recently discovered. Let's say you've got 2 cars, your wife has 1 car, she's off at work someplace, and she's got the key fob for the car that's in the driveway. And you can't unlock the car because it's locked, she's got the key fob. Well, it turns out if you cell phone that signal, you stand there beside the car with your phone, the wife phones up, she pushes the button through the phone, pop, the doors open up. That's pretty cool. It's almost like having that OnStar system where you can unlock your car by satellite, except you've already got the cell phone in your hand. Now, we don't think there's any security issues here. I mean, it still has to be your car and your key fob. And we're not saying it works on every single car, but Dan, the cameraman, give us a nod, Dan. He's actually done this, opening up his car from his neighbor's house 5 or 6 doors down the street. So, you know, maybe there are places where cell phones and cars can live together in perfect harmony. I'm Jim Kinsey.
You know, I began the program a little confused as to whether the new Dodge Journey was a crossover, a minivan, or a station wagon. And let me say, and I've said it before, I have no problems driving a minivan. Unlike sport utilities, with the exception of GM product like the Tahoe, Yukon, and Suburban, most sport utilities, big on the outside, very little room on the inside. Well, the new Dodge Journey inside has the amenities and the utility of a minivan. But when you're driving it, you really feel like you're driving a nice, comfortable sport utility that just happens to be a Dodge. I mean, I like the overall look of it. I did not get to drive the 2.4, but I did drive the 3.5. Ample power, and you know, at a starting price of what, under $20,000, this has got to be on somebody's shopping list. Anyway, Graham will have a much closer look on a future test drive. That's it for now. We'll see you next time as we continue to bring you more stories about cars and the people who drive them.
Even more importantly, I think, is that they're going to offer a rally art version of the Lancer, which will have a lot of the same technology that's in this car, but will have a much broader customer focus and be a lower price. I think that may be the biggest news of all coming out of this.
Motoring 2008 on TSN has been brought to you by the new Q horsepower from Quaker State. Unleash all your horses. And Michelin, a better way forward.